Welcome to the deep dive. This time, we're grabbing our metaphorical shovels and digging into the world of Indian agriculture. Well, specifically, its future. You've sent over a fascinating collection of articles from the NABARD Research Chronicle. That's the research arm of the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development.
Okay.
For those new to the acronym.
Right.
And I'm ready to unpack it all with our expert.
It's a treasure trove of insights, really. We've got everything from big picture projections about supply and demand to the very real struggles of individual farmers facing debt.
We're talking about a country that's gone from struggling to feed its people to being a major agricultural powerhouse. So understanding where things are headed is crucial, right?
Absolutely. In the first article, Prospects of India's Demand and Supply for Agricultural Commodities Towards 2030, dives right into that. It celebrates India's journey to self-sufficiency in staples, like rice and wheat, but reminds us that the game is changing.
Right. It's not just about having enough food anymore. It's about what kind of food, this research says. India is on the verge of a major dietary shift. More fruits, veggies, livestock products. Basically, everyone wants a more interesting plate.
And that's not just a foodie trend. It has massive implications. By 2030, we're talking about a potential need for an extra 100+ million tons of vegetables alone. To put that in perspective, that's more than the weight of every single person on Earth.
Okay. Whoa. That image definitely helps wrap my head around it. But
More veggies.
more veggies means more land, more water, right? So is India really equipped to handle this kind of demand explosion?
That's the million-ton question, isn't it? This article suggests that while India has a good track record with focused agricultural policies, meeting this demand will require some serious innovation and resource management. And that brings us to potential sticking point, oilseed production.
Yeah. The article mentioned that India imports a lot of palm oil, so even if they nail the whole veggie revolution, they're still reliant on other countries for a key ingredient.
It's a complex issue. The research suggests exploring multiple avenues. Boosting domestic oilseed production is key.
Yeah.
But they also need to consider diversifying edible oil sources and even promoting responsible consumption patterns.
So maybe teaching people about healthy alternatives
Yeah.
to palm oil could be as important as planting more oil palms. It's all about finding that balance. Speaking of balance, let's shift gears from the national level to something a bit more, well, ancient. Tanks.
Ah, yes. Future of tank irrigation in Tamil Nadu. Investment options and implementation pathways. This one really highlights the ingenuity of traditional water management systems. We're talking about interconnected tanks, sometimes forming cascades, designed to capture and distribute rainwater in harmony with the landscape.
It's a fascinating contrast, high-tech solutions for the future, alongside ancient techniques, still relevant today. But the research wasn't all rosy, was it? It sounds like. These tank systems have fallen into disrepair.
Sadly, yes. The article states that the area irrigated by tanks in Tamil Nadu has shrunk considerably since the 1970s. Unpredictable rainfall is a factor. But what's alarming is the encroachment on these water resources, essentially people building on or diverting water from, the very systems that sustain them. It's a cautionary tale about respecting the delicate balance of nature.
Okay, now I'm feeling a bit despondent, but there's hope, right? The researchers weren't just ringing alarm bells, they offered some solutions too.
They did, and this is where the ingenuity of Indian researchers shines through. They're not talking about abandoning these ancient systems, but modernizing them. Imagine desilting these tanks, strengthening their bunds, the embankments, and even using them for groundwater recharge. Talk about a 21st century upgrade.
Okay, now that's what I call thinking outside the tank. But how do you even begin to prioritize these improvements we're talking about? A lot of tanks.
That's where the researchers get really clever. They propose a tank modernization index, basically a tool to help policymakers assess the needs of different tanks and prioritize investments. Imagine a point system based on factors like the tank's condition, the surrounding population, potential for groundwater recharge. It helps ensure that resources are used most effectively.
So taking a page from the tech world, they're using data to breathe new life into ancient wisdom. But speaking of tech, let's jump from the serene world of tanks into the fast-paced world of artificial intelligence. The next article is Enabling Farmers Through Game Theory and Artificial Intelligence-Based Services. And honestly, just the title makes my head spin a little. AI on the farm. What's that all about?
It sounds futuristic, but it's about using technology to empower farmers with information and make their lives easier. This research highlights 3 key areas where AI And game
Vein
theory.
theory.
That's about understanding.
Yep.
Strategic decision-making are already having an impact.
And we're back, folks, diving deeper into the future of Indian agriculture. We've talked about the changing dietary landscape, the ingenuity of ancient tanks, and even the power of AI. But now it's time to confront the elephant in the room, climate change. The final article you shared, capitalizing watershed investments and interventions for enhanced climate resilience in agriculture, lessons from an adaptation fund project, doesn't pull any punches.
It doesn't, and rightfully so. We can't talk about the future of agriculture without acknowledging the very real and present threat of climate change. Think about it. Extreme weather events, shifting rainfall patterns, rising temperatures. These aren't abstract concepts. They directly impact farmers and their livelihoods.
It's one thing to read headlines about climate change, but it's another to connect the dots to the food on our plates. This research makes it clear that climate change is already affecting Indian agriculture, right?
Absolutely. The article highlights how these changing weather patterns are disrupting traditional farming practices, leading to unpredictable yields and increased vulnerability, especially for farmers in rain-fed areas. And it's not just about adapting to gradual changes. It's about building resilience against sudden shocks, like droughts or floods, which are becoming more frequent and severe.
So it's not just about growing more food, it's about growing it smarter.
Right.
Right, the article mentioned something called climate-smart agriculture. What exactly does that look like in practice?
It's about adopting practices that can withstand and even mitigate the impacts of climate change. This can include developing drought-resistant crop varieties, improving water management techniques like rainwater harvesting, and implementing early warning systems for extreme weather events. Think of it as working with nature, not against it.
Okay, so practical, proactive solutions. But are these solutions just theoretical, or is India actually putting them into action?
Here's the good news. India is stepping up. The article highlights a really promising initiative, an adaptation fund project implemented in Tamil Nadu and Rajasthan. This project focused on promoting a whole suite of climate-resilient technologies and practices.
Like what? Give me some specifics.
They introduced things like improved crop varieties that can handle water stress, trained farmers on water-efficient irrigation techniques, and even helped them diversify their crops to reduce risk. It's about equipping farmers with the knowledge and tools they need to adapt to this new reality.
It's one thing to throw technology at a problem, but it's another to ensure it actually makes a difference in people's lives. Did the research look at the impact of this project?
They did, and the results really encouraging. Farmers who adopted these climate-smart practices experienced higher yields, increased income, and improved water use efficiency. And it's not just about the numbers. The project also focused on strengthening local institutions and building capacity within communities, which is crucial for long-term sustainability.
It's like the old saying, give a man a fish. You feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish. You feed him for a lifetime. But even with these success stories, let's be real, climate change is a global crisis, and it's not going away anytime soon. So where do we go from here?
You're right, there's no easy fix. But this research highlights the importance of a multi-pronged approach. We need continued investment in research and development. To create even more resilient crop varieties and technologies, we need strong agricultural extension services to bridge the gap between research and real-world implementation, ensuring that farmers have access to the latest knowledge and training. And perhaps most importantly, we need policy changes that prioritize sustainability and resilience in agriculture.
So it's about a combination of scientific innovation, effective knowledge sharing, and the political will to make sustainable agriculture a priority. It's a tall order, but it sounds like India is moving in the right direction. But before we get too caught up in the big picture, let's zoom back in for a moment. We've talked about high-tech solutions like AI and more traditional approaches like revitalizing ancient tanks. But I'm curious, are these solutions equally accessible to all farmers?
That's a crucial question, and it brings up the issue of equity and access to technology and resources. While India has made remarkable strides in mobile phone penetration even in rural areas, there are still disparities in digital literacy and access to reliable internet, which can be barriers to adopting some of these high-tech solutions.
So how do we bridge that gap? We don't want to create a two-tier system where some farmers benefit from cutting-edge technology while others are left behind.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to design solutions with accessibility in mind. This can include developing offline features for agricultural apps, providing information through SMS-based services, and even utilizing voice-activated interfaces for those with limited literacy. It's about meeting farmers where they are and providing support tailored to their needs.
So whether it's high-tech AI or low-tech, but ingenious tank irrigation, it's about making sure these solutions are practical, affordable, and accessible to everyone who needs them. But let's not forget about the farmers themselves. They're the ones on the front lines of this battle against climate change. What kind of support do they need to thrive, not just survive, in this changing world?
That's where the research emphasizes the importance of strengthening farmer-producer organizations, those FPOs we talked about earlier. By working together, farmers can pool resources, share knowledge, and access training opportunities more effectively. They can also leverage collective bargaining power to negotiate better prices for their produce and advocate for policies that support their needs.
So it's about fostering a sense of community and collective action, which, let's face it, has always been at the heart of agriculture. But we also can't ignore the elephant in the room, that staggering statistic about 90% of tenant farmers being trapped in debt. How does that play into this vision of a more resilient and equitable agricultural future?
It's a stark reminder that technological solutions and climate-smart practices, while essential, are only part of the equation. We need to address the underlying systemic issues that make farmers, especially tenant farmers, so vulnerable in the first place.
So what needs to happen? We can't just throw more loans at the problem. That seems like a Band-Aid solution to a much deeper wound.
Exactly. It requires a shift in policy that prioritizes the well-being of all farmers, not just landowners. That means improving access to formal credit with fair interest rates, strengthening land tenure security, so tenant farmers feel confident investing in their farms, and creating alternative livelihood opportunities to diversify income streams and reduce reliance on a single crop.
It's about creating a safety net. So a single bad harvest or a sudden price drop doesn't push them further into debt. It sounds like a tall order. But this research suggests that India is at a critical juncture where it can really redefine its relationship with agriculture.
Absolutely, and that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're not just uncovering information, we're grappling with the very real challenges and opportunities facing Indian agriculture. And as we've seen, these challenges and opportunities are deeply intertwined. We can't talk about technology without addressing equity. We can't discuss climate change without acknowledging the burden of debt. It's all connected.
And speaking of connections, let's shift our focus from the local to the global. We've spent this episode exploring the future of Indian agriculture, but how do these trends and challenges resonate on a global scale? It's like, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. But when we step back and look at the bigger picture, whoa, Indian agriculture is like a microcosm of global food security, isn't it?
Precisely. The trends we're seeing in India, the rising demand for diverse foods, the challenges posed by climate change, the potential of technology, these are echoed across the globe. Think about it. As the global population continues to grow, so does the pressure on our food systems. And as dietary preferences shift towards more resource-intensive foods, like meat and dairy, the need for sustainable and efficient agriculture becomes even more urgent.
Like we're all part of this giant interconnected food web, and what happens in India, one of the world's largest agricultural producers, has ripple effects across the planet.
Absolutely. Take the issue of climate change, for example. We've seen how it's already impacting Indian farmers. But this is a global crisis that requires global solutions. The innovations and adaptations being developed in India, like drought-resistant crops and water-efficient irrigation techniques, could hold valuable lessons for other countries facing similar challenges.
So it's not just about India feeding its own people. It's about India potentially contributing to a more food-secure world. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. But it also makes me wonder, are we doing enough to share this knowledge and collaborate across borders? Are we learning from each other's successes and failures?
That's the key question, isn't it? We can't afford to be siloed in our approach to these challenges. We need more cross-border collaboration, knowledge sharing, and technology transfer to accelerate progress towards a more sustainable and equitable global food system.
Like the old saying, 2 heads are better than 1, or in this case, maybe 1 billion heads are better than 1.
Exactly. And it's not just about sharing technology. It's about understanding different cultural contexts, respecting traditional knowledge, and ensuring that solutions are tailored to the specific needs of local communities. It's about global cooperation, yes, but also about empowering local communities to be part of the solution.
Because, let's face it, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to a challenge as complex as global food security. But what we've learned today is that there's a lot of hope out there, a lot of ingenuity, and a growing recognition that we're all in this together. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the nitty-gritty of tenant farmer debt to the potential of AI to revolutionize agriculture. It's been eye-opening, to say the least.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of it all, doesn't it? We can't talk about agricultural productivity without addressing issues of equity and social justice. We can't ignore the impact of climate change, nor can we dismiss the power of human ingenuity and collaboration to drive positive change.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the future of Indian agriculture, and really the future of food, for all of us, I want to leave you with this thought. What role can you play in creating a more sustainable and equitable food system, whether it's supporting local farmers, reducing food waste, or simply educating yourself about where your food comes from?
Yep.
Every action, no matter how small, can make a difference.
Because ultimately, the future of food is in our hands.
And on that note, we'll leave you to digest all this fascinating information. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, broadened your perspective, and maybe even inspired you to take action. Until next time, happy exploring.